The DA must protect Cyril Ramaphosa in a vote of no confidence. Here's why. With the Phala Phala scandal in the spotlight yet again, some real talks are taking place about whether or not a vote of no confidence will be held in the president, Cyril Ramaphosa. And while many people have moved to say that this is a time for parties such as the DA, as well as opponents such as the EFF and MK, to rise up and finally serve justice and ensure that Ramaphosa gets taken out of the office of president and actually receives the punishment that is due to him, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm thinking that perhaps this actually isn't the right thing to do. You see, while many people are concerned about the rule of law and ensuring that Ramaphosa is served justice, and I certainly do support this as an idea, I actually think that the DA would do a much better job of rather protecting Ramaphosa in exchange for a massive favor that would actually lead to the end of BEE and rescue the South African economy. Now, before I get into this plan, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? It's completely free to do, and all you have to do is click on the subscribe button below the video. If you would like to enjoy additional perks such as members-only videos and support the channel, you can do so by becoming a Power Club member. All you have to do is click on the join button below. Now let's get into this. So a few days ago, the DEA released a press statement explaining how they have decided to advance their Economic Inclusion for All bill to Parliament, and this is being done in order to replace BEE once and for all. So as they explained in this press release, they've decided to introduce it to Parliament, and the bill is set for its first reading on Thursday. So just to give a bit of context, this is being recorded on May the 16th, and so the reading has already passed and the bill has been introduced. And this is incredibly important. And the reason I say that is because this bill is likely to be voted on far before the vote of no confidence in Cyril Ramaphosa, which would arise from the Phala Phala scandal. Now, I'm not going to be speaking about the Phala Phala scandal itself in this video because I have an interview with a prominent advocate coming out in a few days, and we'll be discussing the details there. So I'd rather not repeat information. But what you do need to know in the context of this video is that while the Con Court, of course, saw to this case and handed down their judgment, there is no motion yet in Parliament to submit a vote of no confidence. And so, on a balance of probabilities, the BEE replacement bill of the DA's is far more likely to be voted on before a vote of no confidence happens. And this is crucial for this discussion. Now, of course, many of you might be thinking to yourself, well, what is the DA's BEE, or rather Economic Inclusion for All bill, actually have to do with this vote of no confidence? And the answer is quite clear. You see, the DA is faced with a massive opportunity to actually work with the ANC in getting rid of BEE forever. You heard that correctly. You see, Cyril Ramaphosa has his back against the wall. And at this moment in time, it's looking as if his political career and even his future, because his pension would be at risk, could actually be in massive danger, and that his life could pretty much be over as he knows it. Now, of course, this could lead him to desperation, and it's the DA who could offer him a lifeline. You see, we already know that the likes of MK and the EFF, and of course the DA, are poised to vote for no confidence in Cyril Ramaphosa. We've even heard this in a DA press release in recent days. But if the DA were to offer him a lifeline, they could make the deal of a lifetime. They could make a deal that sees, yes, Cyril Ramaphosa evading justice, but in exchange for getting rid of BEE and reviving the South African economy. And they've never had an opportunity like this in 32 years. You see, at this moment in time, what we need to understand is that while Cyril Ramaphosa is facing the vote and could very likely be booted out, with sources saying that even some members of the ANC will want him out because they support Paul Mashatile and others, the DA is facing a similar problem with their anti-BEE bill. And here's why. So here is a map that I've created of the South African Parliament. Now, I know that a lot of you like to ask me what sort of software I use in my videos. And in this specific case, I'm using an app called Flourish. So if you head over to flourish.studio, you'll be able to use this. It's a very helpful visualization tool with tons of different graphs. I highly recommend it. Now, in this specific instance, what I'm showing you is the Parliament at the moment and where all the seats are. So we've got the ANC at 159, the DA at 87, MK at 58, EFF at 39, IFP at 17, and so on. Now, what's really important for us to understand is that there does seem at this moment in time to be support for the DA's bill as well as opposition. And what sources and a lot of political analysts are saying is that the ACDP and the Freedom Front Plus are highly likely to support the DA's bill, whereas the ANC, EFF, and MK are against it. Now, of course, if we go over to the data section over here, you'll see that I've put which parties are likely to support the bill and which will not. And we can see that there's only 3 parties who are. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the way that this specific parliament map looks. So I'm going to make sure that it goes according to who supports the bill and who doesn't. And I'm just going to sort it. And there we go. So as you can see, the yeses are far outnumbered by the noes. And I've got a dotted line over here. And basically what this dotted line shows us is where the majority of Parliament would be. And so ultimately, in order for this bill to be passed, it just needs a simple majority of more than 50%. Now, obviously, the big elephant in the room is whether or not the DA can make a deal with the ANC, because we know that the EFF and MK will never support this bill, and the other small parties are too small to make a difference. And with this sort of potential trade, we can actually see a situation where they say, okay, we'll support Ramaphosa if you support this bill. Now, the reason why I think this could actually work out is the following. As I mentioned before, the vote on the DA's bill is most likely to come far ahead of a vote of no confidence. And so the DA, if they're just willing to put aside their big morals for one moment, could actually enter a massively helpful deal. They could go to Ramaphosa and they could say, listen, we are willing to protect you, but in exchange, you've got to help us and you've got to vote in favor of this bill. Now, if let's say there's a chance that the vote of no confidence comes before the bill gets voted on, then what they can actually do is say this. We're going to have a contract. It's got to be a written contract signed by all parties. Once the ANC and the DA conclude this contract, the DA has to hold a press conference where you'll get somebody like Helen Zille holding up the contract and saying, South Africa, listen, we've got this deal being made. And they've got to explain it to the public. They've got to say, yes, we understand that Cyril Ramaphosa needs to face justice, and we understand the moral question here. But what we also need to understand is that the justice being faced by Ramaphosa is nowhere near as big as saving the South African economy. And BEE for the longest time has been one of the core reasons why the economy is so crippled. After all, the Free Market Foundation had research on this where they explained how companies have literally poured billions of rands into BEE compliance. And this money could have been used to actually just hire people. It could have been used to grow the companies in other ways. And this would have fueled employment in a far more meaningful and effective manner than BEE. And so the DA really has to drive that point home. Now, if we go back to the data column, and let's say the ANC does agree to this. So, all right, we're going to just sort the column. We're going to say all of a sudden that the ANC, yes, they do support the bill. But something else that's really important is that they might not be the only party to do this. You see, what a lot of people will forget is that the ANC does have proxies in Parliament. And so, for example, Al-Jamar might say yes as well if they see that the ANC goes that way because they understand where their bread is buttered. After all, there are the likes of Bossa who I assume would not want to support the DA, but they may support the ANC. We then see the likes of the Good Party perhaps turning. The IFP, I imagine, will want to support the ANC and oppose the DA because they've already had some murmuring saying, oh, we do think BEE is necessary. So they might go with the ANC as well and support. And then we know that the Patriotic Alliance loves to support the ANC when it's convenient to do so. Yes, a lot of their ideology is opposed to ANC ideology, but we know from their voting record that they generally support the ANC in Parliament. Now, if we are to sort this data, then all of a sudden, what we end up seeing is a massively different picture. You have not just a simple majority, but a supermajority in Parliament supporting the DA's bill. And this will end BEE for good. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning those smaller parties potentially supporting the bill as well is actually crucial, because we understand that the ANC is a heavily divided party. Much like some people might support Ramaphosa and others will oppose him, the same could happen with this bill, where the Ramaphosa faction will go to the DA and say, yes, we will stick to our word and support your bill, but dissidents from the Mashatile faction will oppose it. Now, this is very important because as those dissidents oppose the bill, these other smaller parties such as the IFP and the PA and so on could make up the numbers that are necessary in order to compensate for the shortfall in ANC votes. And so the DA's bill could still get over the line. The bottom line is this. I totally agree with people who want to see Ramaphosa face justice. This much has never been disputed on my side, but let's also be honest. We've seen time and again how previous ANC leaders and high-up officials escape justice all the time. We've seen it with Jacob Zuma and many others. And if Ramaphosa was to face justice, cool, it would be nice, but he's just one man. And he's going to stop being the president next year anyway, when the ANC have their next elective conference. On the other hand, this DA bill could seriously change the South African economy forever. Never has there been an opportunity as good as this to finally get rid of BEE and unlock the economy for all South Africans, regardless of race or social status. The bottom line is, this is a time where I truly believe that we need to put our egos aside and say, all right, whether we like the DA or not, whether we support Ramaphosa or not, that's irrelevant. The most relevant thing is getting the best deal possible to finally bring back the South African economy in a bigger way than ever. In my mind, this kind of a trade is worth it. Thank you very much for tuning into the video. If you found it interesting, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more content. And let me know in the comment section below, do you agree with my analysis or do you feel that this is something that probably isn't going to work out? I'd certainly be curious to hear your thoughts. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.